Hey, Saigon Sam here, September 18, 2009. I just wanted to give you a little bit of updated information on my first video about visas here to Vietnam. I just talked with a friend of mine who's in the process of renewing her visa, and she's actually been here a long time, and this is what I found out. So first of all, this is particularly with regards to people that don't work here, because if you do work here, normally you get like a 6-month B3 visa from the consulate or embassy in conjunction with an employer to be here in Vietnam. And then once you're here, basically every 6 months you just need a letter from them, which you then take to basically a visa assistance shop, and they'll help you extend for another 6 months. And as I understand, you can extend for up to 5 times, which would be a total of 3 years before you need to apply for a new visa. So this discussion particularly concerns those not in this situation who either support themselves working on the internet, or they have a business in another country, or they're simply retired and wish to stay here long term. In this case, unless you're seeking permanent residency because you're married to a Vietnamese, as I understand now, you can get a 3-month visa to stay here, but you can only get a 3-month visa from outside the country. That means once your current visa expires, you basically have to leave the country, which means you could take the train to Cambodia, or perhaps you could go to Laos, depending on where in Vietnam you are, or you could fly to any number of destinations in the region, Bangkok, Hong Kong, Singapore, to name a few. And once over there, you could go to the consulate or embassy and basically procure a 3-month visa, and I suppose that would mean a tourist visa, back into Vietnam. And as I understand, it's legal to repeat this as many times as you wish. Now, of course, there are other issues, because first of all, you have to make sure you can even get into the country in order to procure into the country other than Vietnam in order to procure the visa in the first place. And since visas typically take at least 1 day to process, sometimes a few days, you might actually have hotel expenses there. Plus, of course, there might be a delay in getting the visa into that country in the first place. Now, I do know that Singapore and Hong Kong have fairly liberal immigration policies. Typically, you don't need a visa at all. You just get a landing visa at the airport when you arrive. But check to make sure, because visa policies change all the time, and they treat some countries different than others. So in addition to the hotel expenses that you might incur while you're there, it obviously does take some time to do this. Plus, of course, you need to take into account airline expenses and transportation while you're there, and food and whatnot. And there's nothing to say that prices won't change over time. Consulates seem to have quite a bit of leeway to set their own prices for visas. I know, for instance, between cities in highly industrialized areas and cities in more rural or less expensive areas outside of Vietnam, visa prices into Vietnam vary quite a bit. Now, I have also heard that you can extend your visa in Vietnam for something in the order of 30 to 50 US dollars for a period of 1 month. And I have heard that theoretically you can do this up to 3 times, which would be a total of 3 months. But it's obviously not a way to live here long term by extending 1 month at a time, especially considering that processing might take up to a week, and therefore you might risk overstays, which you definitely don't want to do. So if you want to stay here long term, I'd recommend you look into transferring in and out of Vietnam every 3 months, and make sure to get the details lined up. But hey, at least maybe this gives you an option now if that's what you want to do. Best of luck.